Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 3, season 2 of the Pit Stop Pals. Nielson and Gager back with you once again. Gager, what's up, buddy? How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Just it's heavy sports right now. So, you got the final push in hockey, start of the F1 season. I mean, man, the race kind of unfolded how we thought it would, but there's a lot of underlying things I think that we picked up over the weekend with the different teams and the structures of what's moving forward. So I'm really excited to see what happens over the next few races, because the main thing that I've been reading about is there's been people saying, because Red Bull car, I mean, even Lewis Hamilton saying how he's never seen a car this fast, right? But a lot of people say because of the wind tunnel time and the amount of time that Aston Martin still has to further their car along and gain a few tenths here or there, what they say the field will get closer and closer together, because really when you look at the middle of the pack, except for McLaren, everything's pretty tight right now, right? It's probably the closest the field's been in a long time, other than Red Bull like moving so far ahead of everyone else. So I think mid-season, this is things are going to be topsy-turvy when it comes to races, and we're going to see a lot of really good battles.
Well, it is the Pit Stop Pals, part of the Nielson Media Coolbet Network, and you're probably not wrong, because I had somebody text into my show this week and said, Dusty, I've watched the first 2 races. Outside of the first 10 laps, it has been pretty boring. But you said it, Gager, the thing that Formula One has provided us, and I guess with us diving into it as much as we have, and you so even more than I have, and I've dove into it quite a bit, is the drama and all the other aspects of it. Yes, Red Bull ran away with this race, and when they got in that 1-2 spot at Jeddah, they were, what was it, gaining a second per lap on the rest of the field. It was absolutely insane. But the storylines even within Red Bull are one thing that you can talk about. Alonso coming out of this thing. Mercedes, once again, looks like they're going to completely revamp their car. Ferrari didn't have a bad day, but kind of should be viewed as a bad day, considering they fell behind for right now. I know they were bitching a little bit about how the safety car screwed them. So, yeah, I mean, Red Bull ran away with this thing, but there's still a lot of storylines to discuss. So let's just start right at the beginning here with Alonso, because it ended up being the biggest story of the weekend because of the penalty being dished out and taken away. But let's just start with Alonso, a guy who eventually ended up his 100th podium, Gage. A guy's been racing since 2002 or 2003 or whatever it was, lines up incorrectly to start a race on the front row. How does that happen? It couldn't have just been an accident. He must have been trying to get a little bit of an advantage on the insiders, because how does that happen? I don't understand how a guy, this is not Oscar Piastri being on the front row for the first time ever and just being nervous about it. That was so bizarre.
Yeah, he could have been. He wanted to get to that first, and he did get to the first corner. But David Coulthard was talking about it and looking at it, and they were dissecting it a little bit, and he was saying in those types of conditions, there's not really much of an advantage to how he was lined up. Yeah, it was off, and they showed some other pictures of former races, and then he basically said it's just the FIA is kind of cracking down on that this year to make sure it doesn't happen. So it's one of those things that I think they're just trying to enforce off the beginning. But I was floored when I saw Fernando bolt ahead and be first in the race off the start. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is great. Finally. Who would have thought that we'd be seeing Aston Martin being the team that challenges Red Bull? I mean, there's a long ways to go, but it was a very exciting first part of the race for sure.
Well, how much of a debacle was it? What is it? 4 laps in, Checo passed him, and that was it. But how much of a debacle was it with what happened with the FIA? And there was a bunch of different reasons of why it looked so bad. I mean, I think Checo kind of said right after they had 35 laps to tell me that I was going to be penalized the extra 10 seconds. And then after they penalize him and then they take it back and he's on the podium, then he's not going to finish third. Then George Russell's going to get the trophy. And then he has to take it. It was a bad look for the FIA and how they handle this.
Yeah, Esteban, they told him right away, right? When and I'm just talking about in the pits, they touched the car too early. Like there was a long time for them to look at that and then not do it till late. Just, I mean, they got to give teams a little bit of a heads up so they can, if they're just going to wait till the end, you never know who's going to win till the 2 days.
If you want to push, you got to know you need to push, right?
You got to know what's going on there. So, yeah, I mean, I watched that pit stop a lot, and I guess it was the back jack they said touched the car.
Touching it, yeah.
But I don't see how they just don't have like a clock there, right? Everyone looking at this clock and just like, okay, go, or just force field regulations. You just can't have anything close to the car. It seems so weird to me to have that, because it didn't look like a huge advantage, but I think they got it right. I was like, God, that sucks to have all this media put out with Alonso getting to his 100th podium and then taking it away, and George Russell basically running a 4x100 with Alonso, with giving the baton back and forth with that trophy, because you see him walking with it and then walking back. It's a bad luck. It's a really bad luck.
Second race of the season, and it's already happening. It's not a great look. Now, basically, the team, what I saw, I think it was Harani who tweeted it. The team was able to prove that there is no definitive agreement that by touching the car would count as working on the car. So they need to clarify the wording on this, basically, right?
Yeah, it's so silly that they're looking at that as a penalty. To me, anyway, I don't. Yeah, I can see if they have the jack in there ready to take the tire off, right? But it was a funny moment, funny tweets, but I'm glad they got it right, because even George Russell in his post interviews saying, look, we'll take the points and stuff, but Alonso deserves the podium. He did enough to be on the podium yesterday for sure.
All right, so that was one of the big storylines coming out of this thing. Checo getting the job done. Max Verstappen moving up from 15 to second. Still not happy with it. Wanted the fastest lap when they said, we're not worried about that. And he goes, well, I am. And then the Verstappens have given me a villain to cheer against now. And I know we're sitting here in Red Bull swag, but that's because Mobile One gave us this Red Bull swag last year. By the way, Skaggs from Mobile One, I met with him a couple weeks ago to see if we can work something out for this season. Gave me a great link to discounted Formula One swag. I'm going to have to text it to you. Yeah, it was really good. Okay. But Verstappen, and then you see his dad. You see the video of his dad when Checo's celebrating with everybody in Red Bull, and not even a pat on the shoulder or a good job. The Verstappens have to be the biggest bitches of all time. It's pretty annoying, man.
It's really bad. Joss he's a beauty. When even in the pits, when Max's car on qualifying, when he had to pull out, Dad kind of does the semi Total Wolf and takes the headset off and walks away. He's all mad about it. But I can't imagine, he sat there and looked basically through Checo when he went past him, right? It was just very terrible look. Just a pat or a smile even. He looked so upset that Checo won. And one thing I did notice, though, Dusty, because in the probably lap with, I want to say 10 laps left, Checo asked, what are we doing here? Right? And Max was pushing. I could see in the times he was taking tenths, and I was kind of doing some
you're doing the math on it, right? To see if he was going to,
and I was going to, if this keeps going the way it is, he's going to catch him by the end of the race here. And Checo asked, what are we doing? Because he was managing the tires. And then he got the go-ahead to push. and the lead went from, I think it was like 4.8 seconds to about 6.3 at the end of it, right? And that was with Max trying to get the fastest lap too. So Checo was putting in killer times.
Yeah.
And so that just shows me, like, Max is a machine. Max is an unbelievable driver. It's amazing what he's doing in that car. But it also showed me that Checo can do some stuff with that car too, where he pulled away from Max at the end because he asked if he could or not, first of all, because I think they were a little bit worried about, there were some things they were hearing with the car too. They wanted to make sure, but
Max was complaining about his drive shaft again.
Yeah. So it was, I mean, I've never seen like the internal battle, but in a team to win a championship. And that would be really fun to watch, because now we got to see principals and garages like trying to squash any rivalry and say we're a team. Like that's one of the most interesting things I think coming out of this weekend is the Perez Verstappen battle. And it doesn't hurt with Joss looking like a jerk when Checo wins. So I'm looking forward to see what happens in the next race. If qualifying will be really, really
well, that's what it kind of comes down to, right? Because if Max qualifies better than Checo, it's just going to be a Max push over and over and over again. I'm very interested to see if Checo can out-qualify Max here a few times, and then how does Red Bull handle it? Because does this season come down, and it would be so good for Drive to Survive next season. But does this season come down to Max and Checo legitimately battling for a championship? And look, we're so early in this season. We're going to have this discussion, 10 or 12 races from now. But that would be fascinating to see how Horner and Red Bull handles this.
I can't wait, because Christian likes to talk about this stuff, and I just want to see how he manages his drivers in this case. Because the first corners, I think if Checo keeps it close, like especially the next race, like if he wins, he's championship leader, right? So he's close to he's in this championship battle right now. And man, the first corner with both Red Bulls, Max is super aggressive, man. He doesn't pull out, like he
no, you're right. He would not ease up. You're right. He'll take him out.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
And we've seen Checo ease up with Max. He's okay, yeah, Max, whatever. Like, but I think it's different this year. A lot different. This
is how sad I am. But I'd still like to see what Danny Rick could do in one of these Red Bull cars. Yeah, I think he could be a podium guy in one of those, and who knows?
Definitely not McLaren.
I was just going to say, it's better to be the reserve driver at Red Bull than an actual driver for McLaren, which is an easy transition. We won't spend a lot of time on them, but my God, this has been even worse than, I know you said at the beginning of the year you kind of thought they would finish 10th, Gager, but I mean, Lando looks completely out of place right now. Like it's sad. This was a team that when they went out, brought in Lando, then brought in Ricardo, they were doing that to push the top 2 years ago. Yeah. And now you're sitting here behind Williams in the standings. What's going on right now?
And Williams looks better. That's the thing. Like and they've had reliability issues. The McLaren, man, I feel, because a couple of years ago we're seeing Lando, challenge at the top in some races. Without that rain, he wins his first Grand Prix, right? Like, so, he just looks, he's a defeated driver. Like, that's, his interviews even got worse. I mean, it's only been 2 after race, but he was kind of not very enthusiastic, let's just say, last year in most of those interviews about the car and the direction. And this year is just like, oh, I got to do this again. Like, obviously it's not the drivers with that car, right?
The car is a piece of shit. Yeah. It makes me feel not bad about my theory of taking Piastri to finish ahead of him in points this year over at Coolbet, because Lando looks like a guy who's just like already defeated, whereas Piastri will at least want to prove a few things along the way, right? So we'll see if
that's another internal battle. That's like the inter battles and on teams, I think, is going to be the most interesting thing, because when you look at how everything finished, And I mean, if Stroll doesn't have problems too, you
Yeah,
probably
that's true.
see Stroll up there as well. So yeah.
All right, so Mercedes overall not a bad weekend for them. I mean, considering the way they're talking about their own car, not a bad weekend for them because Gager, this looks like this is happening, right? Like they're going to reveal a new car here at some point in the first half of the season.
It has to be done, and you know my love of helmet cams, Dusty, and like if you watch the Red Bull car, like I threw it on Max's helmet just to watch him slice through everybody, and the sound of the car, the way, like, no head movement, no bobbing, you don't hear the car bottoming out, and it corners on rails. It sounds good, looks good. It's an unbelievable machine, right? I look at Mercedes and you hear the bottom scraping and their heads are bobbing. McLaren's even worse, right? So Mercedes, I just don't get it. How could they? It's like they just took the winter off and said, it'll be good. It'll be good next year. We got a little bit better, so we'll be all right. And I don't know. George Russell's got to be one of the top guys for fantasy pools because he is, again, showing he's Mr. Consistent. You know, that 3 to 5 kind of spot. He drives pretty well. I was hoping to see Lewis kind of catch him and see what was going to happen there, but I think
what happened there, because it looked like Lewis was on the mediums, George was on the hards. Was that just tire degradation for Lewis? Because he was pushing right on him, and then by the end of the race, he was 5-6 seconds behind.
I think I haven't watched Lewis's helmet cam and seen where that happened, but I think he just went straight into tire management mode and just to finish the race and get the points at that point. The degradation on the tires, if he would have kept pushing, probably would have seen him maybe losing a spot later on, right? Just because
just play it safe, stay ahead of the Ferraris.
But that was another interesting thing. Like there was only 2 guys that started on hard tires, right? Mm-hmm. And so that was a weird kind of decision, I thought, anyway, for Lewis to start on the hards when basically the rest of the field were all on mediums to start.
Everybody else was on the mediums, basically. Yeah,
and they said
they were saying the hards aren't reacting well, right? Didn't they say that? Like, I heard that
and they weren't reacting well. That track is really nice and smooth, so there's not a lot of tire deg, and the mediums were lasting longer, right? So yeah, just Lewis always, I think, tries something different. Like both cars are rarely on the same type of plan, I think, and maybe it's to be a bit different. But Lewis was complaining about those tires the whole time. Got on the mediums, and then it was a much better, but still that Mercedes. I can't wait for the new Mercedes car.
I was going to say, I think Toto has already been asked if it's just going to basically be a black Red Bull. Yeah. And he said, I don't care. I don't care if that's how people view it, right? If that's what you have to do, then that's what you have to do. And even if by the time they make the switch, and did they say when they're going to make the switch yet? I don't think they've confirmed when it's going to happen just yet. It's not going to be ready by Australia though, right? Like that's no. But even if it's a little too late this year, if they can give them some good competition, it'll make the second half of the season very nice. Like I think that'll be good.
Yeah, and if everyone's right with the lack of wind tunnel time for Red Bull, man, I just think that Aston Martin, it's an unbelievable car. That these guys, Stroll and Alonso, are going to be up there battling with these guys. I really think that by mid-season.
Well, think how good that car is, considering what you just said about Lance Stroll. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, Lance Stroll has never been a factor really ever outside of ruining the race for everybody else. And now we're sitting here going, they got Lewis Hamilton and George Russell and Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc have to track down Lance Stroll. What the hell is going on right now with this Aston Martin car? So yes, that'll be a little bit of a difference. Ferrari, they were not happy, kind of got screwed over by the safety car. Did you think that had to be a full safety car?
No,
it looked like he was pulled right off, right? Like I was just like,
they didn't need to do that. And that's another thing if there's just a virtual safety car, Max doesn't even get close to Checo. I don't think at that point, right? He just takes
I would
off
agree.
and is completely gone. So he got close because of the safety car. I think mostly, but yeah, that was a weird one because even on the broadcasters were puzzled because he was basically pulled himself into the safety area there.
Yeah.
So, but no, Ferrari just
Charles moved up a few
old.
spots. Sainz came down the same spots. It was second half of the season last year, Ferrari, basically.
Yeah, getting the lack of communication again, right? Charles was upset because he didn't get the information to get closer up to Hamilton on the safety car. They've left off right where they ended last year, right? When you think that a lot of things are going to change. I don't know what's going on. They're either in there just having coffee and, oh yeah, there's a race going on. It just seems like they're just not ready for everything. And they're apologetic, and you just hear other teams on the radio, and it's so direct, right? And even going back to Alonso with not starting correctly, like when they said that they informed him about the 5-second penalty, he was just like, copy. It didn't miss a beat. So part of me says, oh, okay, he knew he did something wrong, but the other part of me is like, no, I still gotta get stuff done. Like they're just.
He was a business. He was a business. He's in the middle of something there.
Everyone seems like they're just on a different page than Ferrari right now. Like, and even their faces afterward, just dejected looks. So not a good look. Not a good first two races for Ferrari for sure.
You know what I'm not a fan of is having another week off before Australia. Like, this is like enough of these. And then there's not another one until Azerbaijan at the end of April.
Yeah.
So 4 races in the first 2 months is killing me. It's killing me. I've already so we watched the race. We watched the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, and then the kids played a little Formula One, and then they went on a walk with our neighbor's kid. So Daddy settled in, and I did the Australian Grand Prix already 2 weeks out. I'm like, I sat down. I was like, I don't want to do it right now. I'll forget about it a little bit, but I still played it anyway. I'm in the Haas machine. I finished fourth in Australia. So. I look forward to who did I finish behind? Max, Leclerc, and Sainz. I think who I was chasing down at the end, and I was quite a ways back, and there was a safety car. It's the first time ever I had a safety car in the game. So I had the safety car, and they called me into the pits like 7 laps into a 29 lap race. I said, I thought we were on a 1-pit strategy here. So I pop in. They put on some tires, and then I went back out for like 7 more laps, and they called me back in again. I was just like, I was furious. I was like, no, what are we doing? This is garbage. I went full Tsunoda, where he's like, or whatever.
Yeah. He got passed.
I was very angry at the game. I was like, why are you taking me for 2 pit stops? So then I was in 11th. I worked my way up to 4th, and that's as good as I could get. So I'm honestly on a good spot right now because I finished 5th, 1st, and 4th in my season so far. Right. So,
that's good.
My teammate with Haas is not living up to me right now. It's a little frustrating. Magnussen needs to get his shit together. We'll say that. So, yeah.
But he said, he had a good point, is that the middle field is so close right now, right? Like he actually said, "What is this, IndyCar?" Like,
yeah. Well, that's good. That's good.
Really
what you need is Red Bull to come back to the pack a little bit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what you want. I think with what they've done with these cars now, making it so tight, it'd be great if everybody was so tight. Like, I'd love to see, and nothing against Red Bull, but I'd love to see Alonso, man, if you want to throw in one of those other mid-pack teams, but like Alonso, Lewis, and Sainz. Like, give me that podium once in a while. Like, that's 3 of the bigger teams, but I just don't know if we'll get that because Red Bull is just going to be there all the time. When you start 15th, and I know it's Max Verstappen, but I feel like even if Checo started 15th, really good shot. He's ending up on the podium still too.
Yeah, it's that car, man. It's they're probably gonna all start looking like Red Bulls here, but
yeah,
I really like. I'm with Toto. I don't care as long as it's fast and can compete. I'm fine with it.
I'm with Toto. I don't care. I love it. All right, that's going to do it for another episode 3 of season 2 of the Pit Stop Pals. Tell your friends about it if they're into Formula One. We don't go too deep on stuff, but we hit on all the main storylines that you have to hit on, and we'll see what happens with this Mercedes storyline over the next little while. Maybe we have an episode. I don't want to go 2 weeks without talking about this stuff again, so we might have to catch up again, Gager. Yeah.
Well, I did retake the lead in our pool, so.
All right. I'll talk to you later, man. See you later.
Later, buddy.